Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody that's here and the people that are also here online. I want to introduce our guest speaker today, Ross Pringle. He teaches biology at Pomona College. He's also the founder and communications director for Claremont Streets for People, an organization working to make streets safer and promote active transportation and transit. It is in his capacity as an electric coach for Rewiring America that he is speaking here today. And he's going to speak on how to have healthier homes and also how to have a healthier planet through electrification.
Great. Wonderful.
Do you need me to give you any signal about time, or are you going to?
No, I'm good. Yeah, thank you. All right, great. So thank you for having me today. Yeah, my name's Ross, and thank you for those of you who are online for joining us as well. That's great. We'll go ahead and get started, and I want to get started with a group interaction. Let's see if we can get this moving. Here we go. All right. First, here is a pop quiz. These are questions about your water heater, okay? A lot of people don't think about their water heaters at all. And so I think I put these in order from maybe easiest to hardest. So how many people, by a show of hands, know where your water heater is in your home? All right. Great. Do you know what kind it is? Is it a tankless? Is it a tanked water heater? Is it something else? Do you know what the fuel source is? All right. Great. So everybody knows what the fuel source is. Do you have a gas fuel source? Okay. Do you have an electric fuel source? What kind of electric fuel source do you have? A tankless electric water heater? Cool. All right. So tankless electric water heater. So there's, and then people who say gas, what kind of gas heater do you have?
Just natural gas.
Okay. Is it a big tank? It's a big tank. Okay. How about over here?
Tankless.
Tankless gas.
And I thought it was electric, but my husband tells me it's gas.
Okay. So yeah. So that's great. So both of you are sharing the water heater, I presume. You don't have a separate water heater. Okay. How about you? A big tank for gas.
Yes.
Okay. So even in this room, we already have 3 different types of water heaters. We have a tanked gas water heater that heats up water and it stays hot 24/7, maybe 40 or 50 gallons of that. We have a tankless gas water heater that the gas turns on only when you turn on the faucet, and then it runs through a series of pipes and heats up that water immediately on demand. Sometimes they're called on-demand water heaters. And then we have an electric tankless water heater as well that it does the same thing as the tankless gas water heater, except it uses electricity to heat up that water very fast and then get it to your home or wherever you're using the water. Okay, so for those of you who have tanked water heaters, which aren't many, how many gallons is it? Does anybody know? Do you know how many gallons?
I think it's 30, but it might be 40, but I think it's 30.
Okay, so 30 or 40. Did anybody else have everybody else had tankless, right?
No,
Yeah. 40. Okay, so okay, and a big important question is, how old are your water heaters? Does anybody know approximately within a year or two how old your water heaters are? Okay, getting harder. So maybe 1 person-ish, 2 people-ish. No, now how old it is. How old is your water heater? Do you know it? 7 years old. Okay, how do you know how old?
It was installed in 2008.
Okay. All right. So 18, 20, like 17 years old. Okay. So about like that. So yeah, a lot of people, they say that water heaters last maybe 10 to 15 years. So if you're in that 10 to 15 year ballpark, sometimes they'll last a lot longer. But if you're in that 10 to 15 year ballpark, that's one of the times that you maybe need to start thinking about replacing a water heater. All right, and the last really hard one is, how much energy does it use? Does anybody have an estimate of how much energy your water heater uses? All right, so that's something interesting as well, because your water heater is probably the second largest energy user in your home besides your heating and air conditioning, because heating water takes a lot of energy to use. And so it uses a lot of energy. And so the more efficient we can make that water heating, the better it is for your pocketbook as well. And saving money. All right, so that's just to get us started and thinking about what we're doing here. So what is electrification? Very simply, it's replacing any appliances that burn fossil fuels with ones that use electricity. And I'll get into the whys of that and everything else. Hello, welcome, come on in. All right, so I want to thank and promote Rewiring America. I'm here because of Rewiring America. This is one of your go-to sources for electrification. They created this electric coach program that I participated in. It's I think a 6-week program where we did a deep dive on home electrification, home systems, and how to design an electrified and efficient home. Their website is rewiringamerica.org, very simple, but I'll have links to resources at the end of the talk, and then we'll have questions and everything else. All right, so this is from Rewiring America. It's a little complicated, and I'm only going to talk about a subsection of this. So I want to point out, though, up at the top, purchasing renewable energy. If you live in Claremont, you probably already purchased renewable energy because the Claremont City Council passed a resolution that all Claremont residents would move to the 100% green power plan on Clean Power Alliance. So Clean Power, excuse me. Clean Power Alliance is the company that is the generator of the electricity, and then SoCal Edison is the distributor or deliverer of your electricity. So that was a couple of years ago. And so if you live in Claremont, you probably, unless you opted out or changed your electricity to something else, you are already on purchasing renewable energy, and you're already on that 100% green power. I won't talk too much about electrical service, but number 2, but just a little bit. And then the 3 that I really want to talk about are the ones in kind of yellowy green, which are the heat pump water heater, electric clothes dryer, heat pump space, heating and cooling, and electrical cooling. I can certainly talk about these others at the end for questions if people are interested. I will say that so for number 7, the electric vehicle, I don't have an electric car. My electric vehicle is an electric bike, which is fantastic. And so I actually own 2 electric bikes and use them to get around Claremont. And they're fantastic. So, but mainly today for the presentation wise, I'm going to be focusing on those ones in kind of yellow. All right, so these are the big 4 in your home that might use methane gas, which is also, by the industry called natural gas. So your furnace, your gas hot water heater, your gas range or cooktop. Hello?
Hello.
Okay. All right. And your gas clothes dryer. Don't know what that was. All right. And so you can transition all of these items. You can transition a furnace to a heat pump, heating and cooling. Not sure if I'm hearing, the people out here? Yep, good, okay. So a furnace can transition to a heat pump HVAC that does heating and cooling. A gas water heater can be transitioned to a heat pump hot water heater, or like these people over here, you can transition to electric tankless water heater as well. Your gas range can transition to an induction range, and your gas clothes dryer can be transitioned to either electric or a heat pump dryer. So these are the 4 things that we're really going to look at today on how to do these transitions. So Why electrification? It's healthier and safer. Burning methane in your gas in your home is a pollution. It's a pollutant. It leads to nitrogen dioxide, benzene, so PM 2.5, that means particulate matter 2.5. These are the tiny little particles that get buried deep into your lungs and then sit in there and can't get out. And it also can produce carbon monoxide. So this can lead to childhood asthma, chronic lung disease, cancers, and all sorts of other potential negative consequences. And then also having gas in your home means that there's a possible explosion from gas leaks and things like that. Studies have shown that a gas stove in your home, even when it's off, is leaking tiny bits of methane gas into your home at all times, which is one of the reasons why I switched to a induction range, is because of that fact. Let's see, let me grab, I wasn't able to pull this up, but let me grab this. So just in May of 2024, so just last year, let me see if I can get this shared online as well. Okay, there we go. In May just of last year, Stanford did a very large study of gas stoves, and they found that they emit unsafe levels of nitrogen dioxide. You can go online and actually look at the entire study in Science Advances, but one of the main things that they found was that high levels of nitrogen dioxide linger in the home for even hours after that stove has been turned off. So you turn on the stove, you do your cooking, you turn it off, and then it takes a very long time for these nitrogen oxides and other pollutants that are in the house to dissipate. And this is especially true now as buildings get more insulated and are what we call tighter. They don't have as much exchange with the air outside. And so that's really good for efficiency, but it means whatever is being a pollutant inside can't get out as easily. So the main recommendation, the first recommendation for these gas stoves is to turn on the vent fan and hopefully have a vent fan that vents outside. All right, so here's another person. They tried these on low, on high, and had lots of different studies. They also, different ways to study this. They also did it in multiple homes, and they found that, right, home size matters. That the bigger home you have, the more those pollutants get to spread out. But even in larger homes, they still go over unhealthy levels. So let's get this back. So that is a big reason why electrification means that your homes will be healthier. And not only is it the gas stove, but it can also be other appliances as well. Here's the other big reason for a lot of people to electrify is it's more comfortable, it's convenient, and it's efficient. HVAC, heating and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning heat pumps can gently heat and cool the air and are 3 to 5 times more efficient than gas. And the amazing part about this is heat pumps move energy from one place to another. So when you are burning fossil fuel, when you're burning gas, that gas is just being burned right there. And the energy that's in that gas is what goes into the place. And so even if you have 100% combustion, you have basically, you're just using the amount of energy that's in that gas. Heat pumps take heat from another source and put it into wherever you want it. So if a heat pump water heater takes heat from outside the heat pump, outside the water heater, and puts it in. Heat pump HVAC takes heat from outside, even if it's cold outside, and brings it into the home. And so that's why, because they're moving heat instead of generating heat on their own, they're way more efficient. Induction cooktops can boil water very quickly, and they instantaneously change temperature. And my favorite thing about it is I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she likes to help with the cooking. And the area directly around that cooktop is cool to the touch. The only thing on an induction stove that gets hot is the pot itself. That's also what makes it a lot more efficient, is that pot is sitting there. It uses magnets to heat up the pot, and then that magnetic energy goes directly into the pot. Whereas you put a gas stove, a pot on a gas stove, there is a flame underneath that pot, and most of the heat from that actually just goes up and goes around and out into the environment instead of directly into the pot. So they're a lot more efficient, and I mean, they boil water so quickly. It's kind of amazing. All right, so another reason, not only does it reduce indoor air pollution, it also reduces outdoor air pollution as well, right? Our gas appliances have a chimney or a pipe that sends that pollution outside. So not only are we polluting indoor, that nitrogen dioxide and other chemicals in the combustion can create smog, and it also reduces carbon dioxide emissions, right? Electrification uses the clean energy that's on the California grid. Right now, overall, that energy mix is 54% of all California electricity is carbon dioxide free. And when it's really sunny out, that sometimes actually goes up to 100%. So California has, over the past couple years, during the fall, especially during the spring and early summer, we've hit 100% renewable energy on the grid just because so much solar power is going onto the grid. We keep on adding more as well. So the nice thing about electrification is your electric appliances will get cleaner over time too. And of course, all the, this isn't even a presentation about climate change or anything like that, but obviously those carbon dioxide emissions help reduce the impacts of climate change as well. All right, so this is the kind of the most important part of the presentation, how to electrify. The most important thing is to make a plan. The worst time to electrify is when something breaks. Okay, this happened to me. I moved into my house, and 6 months after we moved in, our gas water heater that was very old, that we had planned on replacing, but we hadn't been able to make a plan yet for, broke. It ruptured, it flooded our garage, and I had to scramble to figure out what to do. And I was calling electricians, I was doing this, people didn't call me back. And it was the middle of January, and my wife said, we need hot water. And so we were without hot water for about a month. We were going to like the gym or whatever, as I was trying to navigate, figure out people to call, do different things. And so having a plan is the most important part about this. Right? Usually your air conditioner breaks when it's 105 outside. Usually your furnace breaks when it's cold outside. Maybe not as cold as some places, but it's cold outside and your house will be cold. So the most important thing is to have a plan and be proactive over time. So what do we need to do? The first thing kind of to do may not come across a lot of people's minds, and that's to look at your electrical panel. In Claremont, a lot of homes, their electrical panel is 100 amps. So if you open up your electrical panel, you find the larger breaker that's kind of separated from the other ones. And then there's a number stamped onto that. And it usually is something like 100, 150, or 200, okay? And so this mainly depends on the age of the house. So the older the house is, the more likely it is that it's going to have a smaller electrical main breaker. This is our electrical main. And so houses probably from the 1970s and older probably have a 100 amp panel. If they are newer, or if the electricity's already been upgraded in that home, it might have a 150 or 200 amp. Right now, kind of the standard for homes is 200 amp. Some homes that are very large even have a 250 amp panel. The other question that you might want to ask an electrician is, do I need new wiring, right? Some homes have very, very old wiring. You know, if the home was built in say 1910 or 1920, or the 30s, and they've never upgraded the wiring, that's a question that you might need to ask as well. And the third thing for just kind of electricity is, do I need new 240 volt outlets? Several of these appliances, a range, a dryer, and potentially the water heater, new to 240 volt outlet. A lot of houses in Southern California were built just with gas in mind, and all of these appliances were gas, and they didn't put in a 240 volt outlet. So in order to be able to put in some of these appliances to electrify, you will need to take a look at that and see if those 240 volt outlets exist. And you know, then talking to an electrician if you need a panel upgrade for how to do that. Now, here's one of the great things is there are new circuits that are smart circuits that can actually share a 240 volt outlet. So they might put a 240 volt dryer with a 240 volt heat pump water heater. And so that will switch back and forth because the dryer is not running the whole time. The heat pump water heater is not running the whole time. And so that intelligent outlet will switch back and forth, and it can actually share one circuit. And so that's a possibility. So that's important to ask about as well, because if you don't need to put in as many 240 volt circuits anymore because of that. All right, so we're going to go through these 4 items. So for heating and cooling, HVAC heat pumps. So there's lots of different versions of this. There are ducted heat pumps that have a compressor outside, and then they have a fan coil inside that circulates the air through ducts in your house. There's also what are called ductless mini splits, and they have a register in each room that you're going to put that in. And they're very popular as well and incredibly efficient. From a comfort perspective, one of the things I recommend is a multi-speed compressor and a multi-speed or variable speed air handler. And so what that does is you might, in your own home or another home you've been in, you may notice that in the winter, for example, the house gets cool and then the furnace turns on and you get a blast of heat and it just blasts, and then it cuts off. And the home cools down and it gets cold again, and it turns on, it blasts, and you have this cycle of let's get hot, let's get cold, let's get hot, let's get cold. With a multi-speed compressor and a multi-variable air handler, what that does is it turns it on like a speed 1 or speed 2, very low 20%, 30% speed. It runs it at a low energy, and it blows gentle, warm air into your house, right? And then if it needs to work harder, it can ramp up. right? But the majority of the time, it's working at 20 or 30%. And so it's blowing gentle, warm, or cool air to your house, and it's maintaining the temperature a lot more even than kind of the on and off and on and off of your like regular furnace. And so the things that you need to look at are the things, what do you have for heating and cooling? Are they gas or electric? How old are they? And what types do you have? A lot of people have a combination furnace and air conditioner, but there can also be electric baseboard heaters, there could be radiators, etc. So that depends on your particular situation to take a look at. And depending on these upgrades, it can be $5,000 to maybe $20,000. A lot are in that $10,000 range. And we'll talk about incentives and other things as well for those. The other thing I wanted to say about that is you can get these in different efficiencies. So there's a SEER rating, and the higher that SEER number, the more efficient it is. So those more efficient units are going to be more expensive up front, but they're going to save you a lot of money because those are going to be in place for 15, 20 years, saving you money every day that it is run. And so that's less electricity that you're using and a more comfortable environment for your house. All right. Next are our heat pump water heaters. They can be between like $1,000 to $4,000, depending on pricing and everything. So the question to ask that we already asked here is, is it gas? Do you have a heat pump or sorry, a water heater that's gas or electric? Is it tank or tankless? And importantly, how old is it? So once you get into plus 15 years on your heat pump, on your water heater, you might want to be considering transitioning to something new. If you have a tankless water heater, my understanding is those actually last longer. So they can last up to 20 or 25 years. And then a question to ask that I already mentioned is there a 240 volt outlet there? Apparently coming soon, or the very first ones coming out, there are some 120 volt heat pump water heaters available. And this technology is continuing to be developed. And so there will be more options out there as we move and continue. All right, here's one of my favorite things, an induction range and or cooktop, right? These can range from actually I saw one for $500 the other day, up to maybe $2,000 or $3,000. These just replace your gas range. But if you want to start induction cooking now and you do not want to spend that money or don't have that 240 volt outlet right there and can't afford to do that right now, you can get a portable induction burner. They have a single burner, they have two that sit on your countertop and that you can just use so you don't have to use your gas range as much. So important thing here is to grab a magnet and put it on your pot and see if it sticks. And so are the pots magnetic? Because induction ranges do need to be magnetic. Oh, thank you. Do need to be magnetic to be able to work. And so if you turn your pots over, some pots actually will say if they're induction ready or not. So that's one of the things, is that induction ready, if you're looking for new cookware, you can look for that term. I replaced a 20-something-year-old pot kit that I had that I was given to me with induction cookware, and it's been fantastic. It's like I said, it's cool to the touch. It changes temperature instantaneously, and it's just faster and better in every way. That's actually probably my favorite upgrade that we've done. All right, so clothes dryer. You can get an electric clothes dryer, or there are even new heat pump clothes dryers as well that use less energy. So the consideration for this is, do you have a lot of laundry and do you dry clothes a whole lot? If the answer is yes, then you might want to consider getting one of these new heat pump clothes dryers. The thing that's really cool about these is they're actually more gentle on your clothes, and they'll help your clothes last longer, because these heat pump clothes dryers don't heat up to very hot temperatures. They help to make the air inside very dry, and heat it up just a little bit and kind of suck out the water from the clothes that way. I will say, I believe they take a little longer for drying as well. And then I'll put it out there that one of the great solutions that we have is just a clothes drying rack. It is wind and solar powered. We have this one from Barbantia. I'm not trying to promote any products or any brands or anything, but it goes up, it spins, it sits in our backyard, and we take our clothes off the line and we might throw it in the dryer with no heat for maybe 5 or 10 minutes just to soften them up a little bit. But that's the number one way to reduce the amount of energy that goes into your clothes drying. And especially here where we have sun and no rain for 8 or 9 months out of the year, if you have room for one of these, it doesn't take up that big of a footprint. It's really fantastic. So you can electrify, or you can go with the wind and solar powered option. All right. Okay, so final thing about the electrification home survey. So you've gone through, you've looked at these 4 items, you've figured out how old they are. You need to make a list of priorities. You need to say, well, what's the easy, do I want to do the easiest one first? Do I want to do the oldest one first? Am I interested in like a more comfortable environment? Am I really worried about air quality, right? And so depending on your priorities is what you should start thinking about first. So starting with your first priority, you say, well, should I replace it soon? Or should I wait until it breaks? A lot of people, what they want to do is they want to get prepared. They want to use the whatever appliance it is for its life. So we're not buying new appliances all the time. We use it for its useful life, and then we're ready when it breaks to switch. And so that's the important part, is to make sure you're wiring, you have your outlets that you need, and anything else that we've talked about to replace it. So when it does break, you can do that. All right. And then the last thing to think about that isn't actually electrification, but it's thinking about like your building envelope and your usage. You can do a home energy audit to figure out how efficient is your home. Do you need to add insulation? Do you need to add weather stripping, ceiling? Do you need low flow shower heads and faucets? Can you replace your toilet with a low flow toilet or a dual flush? Do you have an Energy Star dishwasher? And do you have an Energy Star washing machine, right? If you do all these things, and this could be a whole topic by itself, but think about these things, because using less energy overall and investing up front is going to save you money over time. All right, last couple of things. There are financial incentives for this. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. There are tax credits and rebates. Some of these depend on income and household size. And there is a Rewiring America calculator, and I'm going to give you that link soon. Also in California, based on that IRA funding, there is Tech Clean California. And I wasn't able to find much information about this because of the current craziness in the administration. There's been an on again, off again. They've paused. There were heat pump rebates. They're currently paused. They may resume soon, but it's something that you need to look into as that changes. There's also was a home efficiency rebate program, and that is also paused. It's awaiting litigation. So there was money allocated in the Inflation Reduction Act, and now it's being fought over. All right, so here are the two things that if you have a phone, you can scan right now on your screen or up here. There is the Electrify Everything in Your Home guide, and there is a Rewiring America savings calculator. And I will show you both of these very quickly, and then I think we'll have time for questions, a couple questions. So just if you grab that, you can scan it. All right, and I can come back to this as well. So my talk was just a brief overview of what to do and how to start thinking about this. These two resources will help you find almost everything you need to do this. All right, so. Yes.
Does that include a list of local people that are familiar with the installation of these kinds of things?
It does not. These are kind of national resources, but I think if there are some lists at that, I'll go back to it, that at that Tech Clean California, that there are lists. The thing to do is really to go to any to get multiple quotes, right? And to ask people, you know, installers, if they, how many of these have they done? Are they familiar with it, right? Some installers are certainly more familiar with these systems than others. Yeah, so I don't think there is a list. All right, are you still working on that? Yes.
On that particular comment, we are in the process of trying to install a heat pump system.
Okay.
And you have to be very careful about who you select.
Right.
It would be useful to have some advice on that question, because I think most people heating and air conditioning will install, but they often have heavy biases towards using existing technology and not wanting to get into installing heat pumps. So it would be useful if somebody could give advice about those places that are friendly to those sort of installations. A related question, and I very much favor your idea about heat pumps. We do use an induction unit on our counter in the kitchen, and that is where we do most of the cooking these days. But what about the idea of using sort of room size heaters of one sort or another, infrared or whatever, to keep particular rooms in your house warm in the winter, as opposed to being constantly depending upon a system-wide or house-wide system in the wintertime? Is that one approach to reduce the use of gas appliances?
Yes, so it depends. So the question was, can we use other systems to keep individual rooms warm in the winter? And so I think it depends. There are infrared panels. From what I've read, because you mentioned infrared, from what I've read about those, they only warm the place directly in front of them. So if you wanted to have one pointed at your couch in the winter, if you have a place that you usually sit and you want that panel, they only, as far as I understand, warm that particular area. The other thing that I'm thinking about are like electric, like oil heaters that sit on the ground, and they use lots and lots of electricity compared to the output that they have. Is that a way to reduce gas if you're going to be in one home and you're okay with leaving the rest of the house cooler? Yes. But the thing I would just caution people about is when you plug that in, it's going to be using a lot of electricity, and you may be surprised by how much, one small heater that, because they actually aren't very efficient, whereas the heat pumps are. Yeah, so I'll also just put this up that if you want to contact me, I have ecoachsgv@gmail.com. And I'll just open it up to other questions. Are there other questions that people have?
I do have one
Yeah.
thing. Have you looked into the hybrid dryers? You mentioned the clothes dryers.
Mhm.
We were out looking for a heat pump clothes dryer, very difficult to find.
Yes, they are.
But we found hybrids. Which
Okay.
share, they do electric, and they claim that it dries the clothes faster and that it works, but have you found a source for just straight heat pump dryers?
Samsung, I think Samsung and LG, and who's the other one? Maybe Bosch make a couple of heat pump dryers, but they are not very easy to find. There's something that you would have to go, a lot of times we'll go onto a website and like special order it. I just wanted to put it out there. It's an option, especially if you dry clothes a lot or want to have the most efficient drying. Realistically, for most people, just getting a regular electric dryer is probably what they're going to do. And that's what we did as well, partially because we mainly use our clothes drying rack. And so we actually don't use the dryer that much to actually dry clothes with heat. So, but yes, the heat pump dryers are hard to find. Other questions? Yes.
Are hot water heaters hard to find that are efficient?
So the hot water heaters are heat pump hot water heaters, and they are gaining a lot in popularity. Specifically, I don't know how difficult they are to find here, but they can certainly, I don't know if you can walk into Home Depot today and just pull one off the shelf, but they're also something that are easily to order. And so you talk with a plumber that you trust and that has experience with heat pump hot water heaters. And that might involve calling around and saying, have you installed heat pump hot water heaters? What's your experience with that? Because there are certainly some companies, and I don't want to promote any here, but there are certainly some companies that have more experience with that than others. Yeah.
Maybe I saw it wrong with book, but they were very expensive.
The hot water heaters?
Mm-hmm.
They can be more expensive, but they're going to save a lot of energy over time. So a lot of these things they might be more expensive up front, but over the long term, they're going to be cheaper and save energy and reduce pollution as well. Sorry, that was a question about how the cost. Yes.
This is a little outside of what you're talking about, but
That's fine.
It influences a lot of decisions. That is, if we could easily put solar panels on our houses, then we could reduce the cost of heating, air conditioning, everything else. But I understand there's a lot of restraints against doing that from Southern Cal Edison and whatever and others about being able to do that and getting credit for the electricity you generate.
Right.
Is anybody looking at this question? If the problem is that we cannot pay for an electric grid if everybody has a solar panel on the roof, is there some way we can have some charge for everybody that is using solar panels to generate electricity and feed that electricity into the system? I hate to see us being discouraged from doing things like that because we can't figure out how to pay for the electric grid that we need to have in this country.
Right. So the question is about like solar panels and the electric grid and charging people. So are you talking about like a solar fee. Is that what you're
Yes.
talking about? Okay. So that idea is in the legislature right now. In fact, there is a on again, off again, and I don't really know where it stands right now. Idea that they were going to charge a fixed rate by income for electrical service. It was passed in the California Assembly, I think 2 years ago. Then there is a bill to repeal it that I don't know if it passed or not. But the idea was to use some metric of income and have 3 different levels of a base charge. And so low income, the lowest income bucket would be charged something like $10 or $15 plus their electricity usage. The middle income bucket would be charged 25, and then high income bucket would be charged something like 60 or 75 monthly on their bill. And so that has yet to go into effect, and I don't know the exact whether it's going to happen or not. But the idea was that was going to affect in 26 or 27. And part of that, and that's separate from solar, but that's what the other idea was. They were going to charge a fixed rate, right? And then the actual electricity usage rates would actually go down. So instead of paying 30 or 40 cents a kilowatt hour, you would pay 20 or 30 kind of thing. So, yeah. And if y'all need to go, feel free. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. All right. Any other questions before we sign off? Be happy to talk. All right. Great. And thank you for anybody who's there still online. And I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Very interesting.